Hi guys, and welcome to the next modelling video. In this one we are going to be doing an AMT 24th scale Capri S. Looking very Bodie and Doyle, entirely the wrong colour of course, and the box art's very nice. You've got a side view showing one in white and the end view showing one in black. This one's showing details of the engine, the V6 no less, 2.8 litre overhead valve V6 with 4-speed manual transmission and a McPherson strut front suspension with rack and pinion steering. So it's exciting stuff. Now if you've been watching recently, you'll have seen that I did a Mark 1 Ford Escort. Now I built the Mark 1 Ford Escort because I've always had a bit of a soft spot for the Mark 1 Ford Escort. Never been bothered about the Mark 2, the Mark 3. I actually had a Mark 4, but it was decidedly ordinary and quite uninspiring. But it's, it's perfectly good for what it was, but it just didn't really excite me very much. And as I said, I've always had a bit of a soft spot for the Mark 1. Now, I've never really had a bit of a thing about Fords beyond that. So, you may ask, why am I building a Ford Capri? Well, the reason for that is because I have a friend who's been particularly good to me and been very helpful with numerous things and what have you, who happens to have a couple of 1982 Capri lasers. Now, I know this is not an 82 Capri, it's an older model, and this is obviously an American market one to boot. However, it's Capri enough for me, and I am going to be building this for said friend, and hopefully he will appreciate it and display it proudly. And it might even encourage him to get some work done on his own Capris and get them out there and driving around. His models, of course, are the 4-cylinder version, which were very common in the UK. The 2.8 and the 3-litre Bullet were not that commonly seen, but you did see some of them around. But anyway, this is an unboxing video, so enough of that chit-chat. Let's get into the unboxing. Now, this is not a brand new kit, so I'm going to take the lid off there. It's obviously been opened before, so it's not really a case of unbagging, more as a case of just taking the bits out of the bag they've been thrown into. Inside, first of all at the top, we've got some incredibly basic bifold instructions. As you can see, that's literally it. That's what you get. Very basic instructions, nothing much to shout about there. On the top we've got the body tub. All of this is moulded in white plastic, with the exception of the tyres, which very oddly are moulded in black plastic in 2 halves. But they don't look bad saying that, so we'll get to that in a moment anyway. So AMT kits, and what's the other one? The other American one that you see a lot of? Monogram, that's the one. They have a tendency, some of them can be really bad, lots of flash, that kind of thing, if they're old mouldings, and then some of them can be really good. Now fortunately, I'm pleased to say that this one is one of the really good ones. It's really nice, clean, crisp moulding, as you can see on the body shell there. A few ejector pin marks underneath, but really not that visible, and certainly nothing that's going to cause a problem, nothing externally. A couple of little swirl marks in the plastic, but hopefully that shouldn't be a problem once it's been cleaned and primed. This is the rare model with the cross strut brace. No, I'm just kidding you, that's not really, that's just a bit of sprue that needs clipping off there. But all you tuners out there were getting excited, weren't you? Anyway, so it's very nicely detailed, even down to the little door handles and the side stripes and the 2.8 badge, which hopefully you can just about pick up. Little side repeaters there. It's kind of cool, you know, moulded in windscreen wipers, and it's very, very nice, and even down to the little badge on the boot, as we call it in the UK. And then on this sprue here we've got the floor pan with the boot floor and the bonnet, or hood as you guys over the pond would refer to that. front and rear bumpers and the valancers. In the sprue underneath we have the chassis, which is not the most amazing detail in the world, but it's pretty good, it's decent, and there's enough there to give you an idea of what's going on. You've got the cross brace for the gearbox and the chassis legs there and the fuel tank at the back. So yeah, the detail's quite nice. The front suspension struts, not very good at all, to be honest. A lot of sort of flash on this bit of the sprue, but not much flash on the actual parts, thankfully. There's a bit on the front suspension struts, and they're not particularly well detailed, but thankfully they'll be quite well hidden. Part of the front steering assembly, the twin exhaust system coming down from the manifold and splitting to the exhausts at the rear there. And before we get into that bag, we've got the windscreen, which is a one-piece unit with no lines sort of dividing that, but obviously that's just going to fit straight inside there and be divided up by the window frames. But that's quite a nice piece, a bit of a polish and dipping clear, and that should look good. And then the tyres that I was talking about, these are kind of odd little things, very quirky little things. I'm assuming that they have specific bits to go with specific bits, and these obviously, they're plastic and they obviously clamp around the wheel and glue in place, and that's annoying in a way because it's going to leave a little bit of a seam line down here. Let me move this light over here so hopefully you can see that a bit better without causing too much glare, I hope. It's going to leave a seam line down the middle. But that said, to say that they're plastic, black plastic, they're actually not a bad representation, and they are branded with the Goodyear logo. I don't know if you can see that, but they're actually branded with what looks like the tyre size, I think. Oh no, I think is that Eco 14 or something like that anyway, and Goodyear. So yeah, there's a chunk of those to glue together. Odd, I've not come across tyres like that before, but there's a first time for everything in modelling, I guess, as in most pastimes and hobbies. We've got a decal sheet which has fine sort of gold coloured coach lining, which I may or may not use. I haven't decided as yet. And then we're going to empty the contents of this bag. Now in here we have the wheels, which are sort of mini light style deep dish wheels, and obviously, as I say, the tyres, one side slips onto this by the look of it. Let me just kind of have a look, see if I can show you this, because I've got one loose in here. So what I would suspect is one side slips onto there like so, which is good because this means you can paint the wheels individually first, and then I suspect you put a rear portion, one of these discs over here onto here, and then maybe the other half of the tyre. I'm not entirely sure. We'll find that out as we go along and build the kit. So we've got the wheels there. We've got the front grille, which very disappointingly has moulded in headlights. That's something that I'm not overly happy about, because there's no easy way to make that look particularly realistic and glass-like. So that's slightly disappointing, but nonetheless we'll plough on. So we've got door cards, or a door card here, obviously one of them's come adrift. That's quite nicely detailed, raised detail and texture. The front seats there, and the rear differential and leaf springs all moulded into one. And I think this must be part of the handbrake and sort of centre console assembly. So I'm not sure what these bits here are, maybe the license plate holders or something. So yeah, front seats door card, the other door card I suspect should be on here maybe, and the rear suspension and centre console there. Over here we have the dashboard, which is a left-hand drive. It's a little bit unfortunate, but you know, I'm not going to get too upset about that. And when all's said and done, I don't think my friend's going to be overly bothered about that either. These are obviously the inner wings and the tops of the McPherson strut suspension. This is, I'm assuming, it's part of the underside front end assembly. I believe it might actually be the bulkhead, thinking about it. I think that's more likely the bulkhead. That makes sense, and that would be the transmission tunnel where the gearbox goes. Okay, yeah, so that's that. The dashboard looks quite nice. It's going to be hard to kind of see there, but if I can get that to focus a bit for you, it does have detail moulded in to the clocks, so a little bit of dry brushing or a bit of a splash of an oil wash could bring out the detail in there. We'll see how that goes. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that yet. This one has the bases and backs of the seat by the look of it, and a couple of little bits maybe for the engine bay. I'm not entirely certain. And then on here we have the engine and components. So we've got the sump, the fan belt assembly, we've got the engine and gearbox over here, we have got the rocker covers here, and we've got the battery over here, exhaust headers, cooling fan, the mirrors, the rear view mirrors, door mirrors, whatever you want to call them, the air filter housing. I'm not sure what this bit is here. I think these might be to do with the wheels. Distributor cap there, mirrors, as I've said, that's that one. And then finally, floating around loose at the bottom of the bag, we have a radiator, reasonably well detailed, nothing to shout about. We have a miscellaneous part there. I have no idea what that is until we get into that a bit more. We have a steering wheel, quite a nicely detailed little steering wheel as well, so yeah, that's not bad. Oop. And we then have a couple of front seats. So obviously the other ones I was looking at must have been, in fact, the rear seats. They must have been split rear seats. So these look like the front seats, and then the missing door card that was off the sprue, and there's the one for the other side. So that's it. It looks like there's much more in there than there is, I think, at first glance. But when you sort of drill right down to it and start taking all the bits and pieces out, there's not that much in there. So, but that said, there's still enough in there to hopefully make quite a nicely detailed model kit. So that's the unboxing and the review there. I'm just going to put that lot back in there for the moment. And the next step is going to be giving all these parts a wash in warm water and dish soap, or washing up liquid as we call it here. That's all going to get a good wash and then rinsed and left to dry, and then I shall be addressing any sort of seams or lines or such like before I start looking at the next step, which is laying primer down after cleaning up the bits and pieces. So thank you for watching. Check back for updates on this one. As with my previous builds, you'll know I'm not a very quick builder, so you will have to bear with me and be patient. But hopefully I shan't be too long on this one, because as I say, I'm wanting to build it for somebody. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.